If a private company builds a habitat on Mars, the obvious business model is to charge for every breath. But there's a more lucrative enterprise, selling people the tools to stop depending on the central system altogether. This isn't theoretical. As aerospace engineering backed by heavy capital shifts rocket launches from rare, heroic events into a reusable operational rhythm, the logistics of a closed settlement are actively being planned. Here on Earth, freedom feels personal, but it runs on invisible infrastructure: public roads, established laws, emergency services. On Mars, that infrastructure becomes completely explicit. The company literally owns the oxygen scrubbers and the habitat doors. If you disagree with management on a Mars base, quitting means losing your life support. The traditional contract between a worker and an organization collapses into total, fatal dependence. To survive the extreme communication delays and local crises of a hostile planet, a central authority cannot hoard all the operational control. It has to push independent problem-solving capacity down to the individual. If an oxygen valve fails, waiting 40 minutes for a signal to bounce back and forth to an engineer in Houston is a death sentence. The settlement requires a localized memory. Instead of pinging a remote expert, residents query a closed, verified knowledge base, an AI trained strictly on the base's own maintenance logs, schematics, and engineering history. In a traditional Earth company, fixing a software bug requires an individual to submit a ticket, wait for management approval, and hope a specialized engineering department eventually writes the code. This side-by-side workflow comparison illustrates the shift away from that delay. While the left side remains bottlenecked, the right side activates a new process. An operator uses an AI interface to state a problem, and the system instantly translates that intent into a generated patch. One person, armed with the right interface, suddenly wields the operational bandwidth of an entire legacy R&D department. The tools keeping the settlement alive aren't imported in shipping crates from headquarters. They grow locally, generated from the system directly by the people facing the problem. Distributing R&D level capacity to every resident introduces a massive risk. How does the settlement ensure that one stressed mechanic doesn't accidentally rewrite a protocol that vents the atmosphere? The ultimate safeguard is an embedded set of non-negotiable boundaries. These programmed survival rules act as a constitution, replacing human middle management to ensure every generated patch complies with strict parameters before it executes. Once the immediate crisis passes, a new problem emerges: assigning credit. Did the person who noticed the blinking light save the base? Or the AI that wrote the code? Or the technician who physically tightened the bolt? On Earth, we resolve these ambiguities with HR disputes, subjective performance reviews, and messy equity fights. In a high-stakes environment, those social frictions degrade trust and collaboration. This ledger visualization tracks exactly how a crisis is resolved. An immutable protocol records the precise sequence of events: user A detecting the anomaly, the AI model generating the patch, and user B executing the fix in a hazardous environment. When subjective human judgment is too slow or too biased, establishing trust and confirming who actually contributed value has to become a programmable protocol rather than a management decision. These constraints aren't exclusive to space. Mars simply acts as a high-pressure mirror, reflecting the invisible systems of dependence that are already starting to fracture right here on Earth. Lower Manhattan represents the peak of this legacy hierarchy, but the tools emerging from frontier labs, the same ones needed for Mars, are designed to bypass these layers of approval. We are already seeing single developers and researchers using automated agents and localized knowledge bases to match the output density of entire 20th century firms. Outsourcing your judgment, your professional memory, and your capacity to act to a centralized corporate system creates a terminal vulnerability. When the organization changes its rules or its access, your personal capability vanishes. The super-individual strategy uses these tools to build local redundancy. It means maintaining a private, verified knowledge base and using AI to execute complex workflows independently of a corporate mothership. Effective organizations now function as open protocols. They provide a shared environment where you can plug in, execute work, and eventually take your verified memory and capability with you when you leave.